Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see the current affairs of 12th May 2022. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see today's quote. So today's quote is a motivational quote. So don't be afraid, be focused, be determined, be hopeful, be empowered. So this is very important for UPSC aspirants because prelims is very near. So I hope you are all doing good. So I wish you all to clear this UPSC examination. So already hall tickets had been released. Okay, I hope you have already downloaded your hall tickets, right? So now let us try to see first topic. So this topic, it is about Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So why this medical termination of pregnancy is seen? So what is the termination of pregnancy? That is, we are going for abortion. So why this abortion is in news? So in yesterday newspaper, that is in Indian Express, there is one article regarding using of medicines. Okay, medicines especially used to go for terminating of pregnancy. So those drugs which are mainly used for termination of pregnancy is misoprostol and as well as mifestrol. Okay. So these are the two important drugs, or they are also called as progesterone derivatives, so which are mainly used for termination of pregnancy. Okay, so here because of this, now here we need to talk about this Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act and what is what is the legal thing, okay, what is the abortion status in India, we need to know that. So this will be very important and it is also very much relevant from our UPSC point of view, and you can expect even mains question from this topic. So now let us try to see what is this article talking about. So again, this issue of abortion is seen in news again, okay, internationally, especially I said an example regarding this USA using of medicines to terminate their pregnancy. So because of this, now again we need to see the analysis of legal status of abortion in India. So in 2021, we mainly passed some amendments to Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act of 1971. So if you see this infographic, so we will be getting what are the changes that mainly present after this 2021 amendment to this Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So in 1971 Act, so it mainly applies to married women only, but we made amendment here, so this amendment which is applied even to unmarried women also be covered under this act. And if you're talking about gestation limit, that means so till how many weeks of pregnancy we can go for terminating. So here gestation limit is 20 weeks for all indications in this 1971 Act, and in 2021 it mainly increased to 24 weeks even for the rape survivors, and beyond this 24 weeks for substantial fetal abnormalities. So if there is any fetal abnormality, so we can go for termination even beyond 24 weeks. Okay, for example, we can see there will be like whenever we are taking any medications which are mainly passing this placenta, and it is also having some deformalities in the fetus. So because of this abnormalities, we can also go for termination of pregnancy after 24 weeks as well. And if you're talking about medical practitioner opinion, so we need one registered medical practitioner opinion till 12 weeks of pregnancy, and if we want to go for abortion in 20 weeks, we need two medical representatives opinion. And if you're talking about in this recent amendment, so if you want to go for abortion till 20 weeks, so there is a need of one registered medical practitioner opinion. And if you want to go for abortion between 20 to 24 weeks, so we need two medical practitioners opinion. Okay, and if you want to go for abortion after 24 weeks of pregnancy means, so we need approval from this medical board. Okay, we need approval from this medical board. And if you're talking about the breach of women's confidentiality, so there can be fine up to 1,000 rupees in the earlier act, and here now in this new amendment we made with fine along with imprisonment of 1 year. Okay, so this is about penalties. So now let's try to see some important rules under this Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So now recent amendment which mainly increased the gestation period from 20 to 24 weeks of pregnancy. So we came up with 7 special categories like the people who are survivors of rape, okay, or rape victim survivors. And next one is minors. And we can also came with changing of this status of women, so from unmarried to married, and even we are including widowhood and as well as divorced women as well. And next one is women with physical disabilities, and even we came up with this mentally ill women. And even whenever there is a malformation or abnormalities in the fetus, we can go for terminating of pregnancy even beyond this 24 weeks of pregnancy, right? And even women with pregnancy in humanitarian settings or during the disaster or emergency situation. So these are the specific categories of women. And if you are talking about board, okay, as I said, if you want to go for termination of pregnancy beyond this 24 weeks, so we need to get advice or approval from this medical board. So in this medical board, we will be having at the national level, and also we will be having at the state level. So at this state level, so a state level medical board, it is to be set, and this state level board which is mainly going to decide if pregnancy may be terminated after this 24 weeks or not, if in case of any fetal abnormalities, or we can also call with another name, that is fetal malformations. And these medical boards, they are to either accept, they can accept or reject the proposal of medical termination of pregnancy within the 3 days of receiving of request. So abortion process has to be done within 5 days of board which is requesting for the same. So these are some important things regarding this medical board. So what is the significance of this amendments? So this new rules, okay, so this new amendments which led to ending preventable maternal mortality, and this will be also helpful for attaining of our sustainable development goals, that is 3.1, 3.7 and as well as 5.6. So 3.1, which is mainly focusing on reducing of MMR, that is maternal mortality rate, okay, and 3.7 and 5.6 SDGs, that is sustainable development goals, they are mainly focusing on sexual and as well as reproductive health and rights. They are mainly talking about sexual and reproductive health and rights. So this amendment will be helpful for attaining of our sustainable development goals, that is 3.1, which mainly talks about decreasing of MMR, that is maternal mortality rate, and 3.7 and 5.6, which mainly talks about sexual and reproductive health and rights. And the new rules which also increase in the ambit and as well as access of women to safe abortion services. And whenever you are having safe abortion services, it will be helpful in ensuring of dignity, it will be helpful in attaining of autonomy and even confidentiality and as well as justice for women, okay. So whenever women who want to terminate their pregnancy, so these amendments will be helpful in access of women for the safe abortions, and even that will be also helpful in ensuring of dignity, autonomy, confidentiality, etc. So now let us have a focus on what are the issues regarding these amendments. So in this new rules, okay, this new rules which mainly led to increase in the access of abortion. So it mainly increases the gestation period from 20 weeks to 24 weeks. So here pregnant women will be having 1 more month extra time now to go for termination of this pregnancy, right? So what happens? So woman does not have a basic right to terminate the pregnancy if and when she decides, okay. So if you see all the new rules which mainly talked about increasing of access of women to abortions to some extent, but it failed to correct a fundamental flaw in this medical termination of pregnancy act, that woman does not have a basic right to terminate a pregnancy if and when she decides, okay. That means if she decides, like after 24 weeks, if she want to go for abortion, she can't, if there is only fetal malfunction or fetal abnormality. So the formation of this state board raises some additional concerns regarding their access, particularly women from the rural areas who do not have access to this state medical board if they want to go for termination of pregnancy after 24 weeks. And this one is this act which requires abortions to be performed only by doctors with specialization in gynecology or obstetrics. So this is also one important thing, because in rural areas we do not found much specialized gynecologists. And next one is there is about 75% of shortage of doctors in the community health centers, especially in the rural areas. So the people in rural areas, if they want to go for abortion, they do not have proper access to the specialized practitioners. Okay, so because of this, the rural women, they will be facing some difficulties to access the facilities for safe abortions. And next one is, the society is unable to ensure reproductive autonomy to women, many of whom not only lack the freedom to plan pregnancies, but also they face some multiple barriers when they seek abortions. Especially women do not have a proper autonomy, because they will be going for unwanted pregnancy many times. So even though whenever woman, she is not at all ready for going for pregnancy or to have the children, so many a times there will be no proper rights for the women to take decisions in the autonomy of the women. And even if they want to go for abortion, means there will be number of barriers that will come into the picture, because from the family side, from the husband side, everywhere. So if you're talking about rural areas, so they do not have proper access to the health facilities as well. So this is about in detail regarding this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding sedition. Okay, sedition law. Actually, this topic, it is very important, and most of the articles in today's newspaper, it is mainly based on this sedition, because Supreme Court came up with a landmark thing regarding this sedition law. So this sedition law, which is mainly talking about section 124A of IPC, Indian Penal Code. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So we are going to understand what is a sedition as well. Okay, and we need to know about 10 important points regarding the Supreme Court observation regarding this sedition law. This article is important from your polity point of view, which mainly comes under your GS paper 2. So now let us see firstly regarding this topic. So what is the context? So after Supreme Court judgment, Supreme Court came up with a judgment of this sedition law recently. Okay, so this is a controversial sedition law in India. So this law will be passed while the central government reviews it. So it is the first time in 162 years. So we are mainly going for suspension. Okay, we are going for the suspension of sedition law. Okay, we are going for suspension of sedition law. So if you're talking about why this is in news, because recently during this 3 farm laws which mainly passed by government, so one environmental activist, she was arrested under this sedition law. And not only this, recently there are a number of students who are arrested, mainly they are reciting some Hanuman Chalisa. And not only this, so recently T20 cricket which mainly held, so in that there are 3 students from UP, they mainly shared some status in the WhatsApp regarding this Pakistan. So again, those people were arrested under the sedition law. So there are a number of examples. We are seeing that there is a misuse of this sedition law which is mainly seen. So because of this is in news. And after one Supreme Court judgment is given, so this controversial sedition law will be paused while central government, which is mainly taking some review on this. And for the first time in this 162 years, the operation of the provision of sedition law which has been suspended now. So if you see here, so in this step we can say that, so this is a favor for freedom of speech or free speech, and Supreme Court has effectively suspended the operation of this sedition provision in the country's penal law. So if you are talking about all pending trials, appeals, proceedings which are mainly respect to this sedition law, that is section 124A of IPC, they are kept in abeyance now. Okay, so it also said that it will be giving some relief to those who are calling for this abrogation of this section 124A of IPC. So here this section 124A of IPC which mainly talks about the sedition law. So this sedition law which mainly criminalizes speech, writings or representations. So this mainly excites disaffection against the government. So actually if you are talking about this judgment of Supreme Court which mainly given on May 11th, it is an historic judgment. Okay, it mainly allowed central government to reconsider the provision of this section 124A of IPC. So after this Supreme Court judgment, this controversial sedition law in India will be passed while central government reviews it. So because of this, it mainly having some impact on hundreds of people who mainly charged under this sedition law. It is a colonial era relic. So sedition law, which was originally enacted in the 17th century by Britishers. So at that time, lawmakers believed that the only good opinions of the government should survive, and these bad opinions, they need to be suppressed. So because of this, here at that time, Britishers came up with this section 124A of IPC in 1870. So if we're talking about what is a sedition law, so what is this section 124A of IPC, which mainly says, so this section 124 of IPC, which mainly says that whoever by words, either spoken or written, or whenever we are using signs or any visible representation, or otherwise brings attempts to being to hatred or contempt, or exciting any attempts to excite disaffection towards the government, which may be established by law in India, they shall be punished with the imprisonment of life. So that means in the small words or the simple words, I can say that if anyone who is speaking any words, or those words, either they can be written or they can be spoken, and even whenever people, they are using some visual representations which are mainly attempting to hatred or contempt. So or if you see those words or those very visible representation which is mainly leading to disaffection against the government, means those people will be arrested and those people will be kept in the jail. So sedition, which may be defined as any action that brings or attempts any form of hatred or contempt toward the Indian government. So sedition has been illegal in India since 1870. It mainly falls under 124A, section 124A of IPC. So this is about the meaning of this sedition. And now let us try to see what are the 10 important points that you have to remember regarding this sedition law. Okay, sedition law puts hold on India. Okay, on hold. Okay, we are mainly keeping the sedition law on hold in India. So we need to know about 10 important points regarding the sedition law. So Supreme Court ordered that there will be no new FIRs will be filed for this sedition law. And what are the pending cases are present in the courts regarding the sedition law, they will be on hold while the government reconsiders this law. So whenever there is reconsideration of this law which is happening, so there will be no new FIRs and there will be the pending cases will be also kept on hold. And Supreme Court was referring to the petitions that challenged in the law, which is mainly alleging its misuse in the cases such as, for example, Maharashtra, where it has been invoked over the chanting of Hanuman Chalisa. So because of chanting of Hanuman Chalisa, so in Maharashtra, so people, they are mainly arrested under the sedition law. And not only that, even 2021, our Chief Justice of India, he mainly said that it is an outdated law. Okay, so earlier in 2021, Supreme Court of India also expressed the concern over enormous power of misuse of this sedition law in the country. So we need to scrap this law. So the central government on May 11, 2022, it announced that the decision to review this sedition law. However, it also argued that today that while it reviews the law, it should not be paused. Okay, and apart from that, here central government also suggested that for now, a police officer who is level of superintendent, so they will be involved or they will be deciding whether so and so case which comes under the sedition charge or not. And this one is government further added that there may be terrorism charges too in the cases filed under the sedition law, and these pending cases are not before the government or police but they are before the court. Yes, in the sedition cases there are some terrorist charges are also present in this sedition law. So these pending cases are not before the government but they are before the court. And next one is petitioners. They opposed the government's stand on law and urged Supreme Court to pause the sedition law until government's review its order. It is over. Okay, so whenever this government review is over, until then Supreme Court said that we need to pause this sedition law. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And now let us try to see next topic. It is also regarding polity. That is, High Court gives split verdict on marital rape. So this article which is mainly talking about marital rape. So this article is important from your polity point of view, which mainly comes under your GS paper 2. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that two judges of Delhi High Court, they gave a split verdict, okay, different kind of verdict on the question regarding criminalizing rape within marriage and leaving the law unchanged. So this article, which is mainly talking about this marital rape. And now let us try to see what are the views of this judges of Delhi High Court. So one judge, okay, name of that judge is Justice Raju Shagdya. So he mainly headed the bench and he struck down this marital rape and he said it is unconstitutional. He said it is unconstitutional. The exception to this section 375 of IPC. So this section 375 of IPC, which mainly talks about rape, and this section 375 subclass 2 of IPC, which mainly talks about this marital rape. Okay, so here this article which mainly says that, so here Delhi High Court judge, he mainly struck down this marital rape as unconstitutional, the exception to this section 375 of IPC. So which mainly says that sexual intercourse by a man with his wife aged 18 and above is not rape even without her consent. Even without her consent, whenever any husband who went for sexual activity with his wife without consent of that wife, which mainly not considered as a rape. So however, one more justice, that is Justice C. Harishankar, he rejected the plea to criminalize this marital rape, noting that any change in the law has been carried out by the legislature since the issues requires consideration of social, cultural and as well as legal aspects. So if you want to go for a striking down of this, so we need to also take into consideration social, cultural and as well as legal aspects. So because if you're talking about our society it is a mainly patriarchal mindset is present. So in this patriarchal mindset, men mainly dominates women. Okay, so here because of this we need to also take into consideration social, cultural and as well as legal aspects as well. And the right to withdraw consent to at any given point of time in the terms that mainly forms the core of women's right to life, liberty, which mainly encompasses the right to protect her physical and as well as mental being. So if you're talking about this marital rape here, so not only marital rape we need to talk here, but even there are some other rights which are mainly given to the women, that is a woman's right to life and as well as liberty. So woman also tries to protect her physical and as well as mental being. So these are some important things which are also involved. So if we're talking about marital rape, so what is this marital rape? It is nothing but the act of sexual intimacy without the consent of spouse, without the consent of a wife. So husband will be involved in this sexual activity. So the lack of consent, it is a key element and it might not involve physical violence. And this marital rape is also considered as a domestic violence and as well as sexual harassment. So this is about this marital rape. And if you're talking about some interesting things, I want to let you know about the global scenario regarding this marital rape and even what is status in India. And we are going to see what are the statements in favor and as well as against regarding this marital rape. So in this way, we are going to cover this topic comprehensively. So if you're talking about a global scenario, yes, in past, sexual intimacy was viewed as a right of spouse within the marriage. So whenever any couple they are going for marriage means, yes, sexual intimacy is also there in that marriage. But by the end of this 20th century, since 1980s onwards, the women right groups are demanding complete autonomy, okay, complete sexual autonomy over their own bodies, including the rights within the marriage. So even though earlier, before this 20th century, yes, sexual intimacy is a part of marriage, but now here because of this women, they are coming outside and women are demanding for their rights. Women are demanding for complete sexual autonomy, right? So including the rights within the marriage. So we came up with this marital rape, okay, that is sensational since 1980 onwards. So these demands, they have been accepted by many governments, and at present marital rape has been criminalized in more than 150 countries. And even some countries, the marital rape is specifically criminalized through a separate law here. Okay, next one is, in some few countries marital rape was criminalized due to court decision. In some countries, like for example Malaysia, here there is nothing like criminalization of this marital rape that is seen in this Malaysia. So now let us try to see in Indian scenario. So if you're talking about data regarding the sexual violence, domestic violence against women, so according to this National Health Family Survey 4, which mainly says that about 5.4% of women, they experienced this marital rape. Okay, about 5.4% of women, they experienced this marital rape. According to some activities, these numbers are very much far from accurate due to under-reporting. So one more important challenge that we are seeing is under-reporting, because women, they will be giving a lot of value for family. So whenever she is complaining against his husband, means that will be leading to some disruption in the marriage and family as an institution, right? And next one is, according to National Crimes Record Bureau report, about 70% of women in India, so these are mainly victims of this domestic violence. And if you're talking about sexual assault on women, so women is raped every 16 minutes, and every 4 minutes there is some cruelty that is mainly seen on the women. So according to this National Family Health Survey, which mainly indicates that estimated of 99% of sexual violence cases, they go unreported. About 99% of these cases, they go unreported. Okay, and if you're talking about India, it is one of the 32 countries in the world that has not criminalized marital rape. So even we are having one section, that is section 375 of IPC, which mainly criminalizes offences of rape. But there is exception for this section 375, which mainly talks about marital rape. Okay, and Kerala High Court, which mainly passed a judgment regarding this marital rape, although not penalized in India, but it could be accepted as a valid reason for divorce. Okay, for divorce, one important reason here is marital rape. And even Verma committee also recommended that we can go for criminalization of this marital rape. Okay, so these are some important things regarding the scenario in India. And if you're talking about what are the arguments in favor of this marital rape, okay, criminalization of this marital rape. So actually what happens whenever there is marital rape, especially the fundamental rights for women like Article 14, Article 15, Article 19, Article 21, they are mainly violated. And next one is, rape by husband is more emotionally connected than compared to the of rape caused by other strangers. When a woman is raped by a stranger, she has to live a frightening memory, but when she raped by husband, she has to live with that rapist throughout her life. So because of this, whenever there is a rape which is mainly done by husband, it is most emotionally hurted to the woman. And next one is, marital rape is a criminal offense in more than 150 countries. So why not in India? So marriage, it is a social contract of lifelong equal relationship. Okay, not a one-time consent to everything. So it is not a one-time consent, but it's like a lifelong equal relationship between the women and as well as men. And the legal exception to the rape laws gives men unequal privilege. Okay, so these are the arguments which are mainly favoring this criminalization of this marital rape. And if you're talking about argument against, so first and the foremost thing here is, so whenever we are going for this marital rape and whenever we are mainly booking some case on husband, then that will mainly lead to destabilization of marriage as an institution. Okay, so here this is one important thing. Apart from that, there are many examples of rising of misuse of this section 498A of IPC, that is known regarding this dowry law. Okay, so in this way also, whenever there is a criminalization is happening for marital rape, that will also lead to some cases misuse. And next one is, other countries, mostly Western countries, they came up with this criminalization of this marital rape, but it should not be necessarily implemented in India blindly, because the entire culture which we are comparing with the Western countries in India, it is very different. So based on that, we can't go for this criminalization of this marital rape. And next one is, women has several other legal provisions, okay, and she can take help from that legal provisions. Okay, and next one is, married women, they are mainly covered in this Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. So thus we can say there is a need of a special thus there is no need of coming up with some special law. So what are the laws that are present, we are going to discuss, okay, within 10 to 15 minutes. So these are the some important things that you have to remember regarding this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. Title says, shallow and deep ecologism. So this article is important from your GS paper 3 under environment and ecology. So here you can see one image. So don't, okay, so this image is not ice. So this is the foam, okay, this is the foam that is seen in the river Yamuna. So now you can understand the level of pollution in this Yamuna river, right? So don't mistake in that this is the Arctic ice or polar ice. So this is the river Yamuna. So we are seeing this river Yamuna which is mainly filled with the foam. So this is about the pollution levels in this river Yamuna. So now let us try to understand this article in a very great detail. So this article which is mainly talking about two important concepts. So we are going to understand those concepts. So those concepts will be directly a prelims question. So if you see context, it mainly says that, so we are experiencing heat waves. And we are also seeing that cyclone Asani. So because of the cyclone Asani, especially in Telangana, there is some impact. So there is a reducing of temperature, and even we are seeing very dry spells that are happening night times and even in afternoon and as well as even in evening. So because of this, there is somewhat control of temperature that we can see in this Hyderabad, especially we are in Hyderabad, right? So I can say about Hyderabad. So if you see context, it mainly says that heat waves are known to have been a reality for hundreds of years. Yes, heat waves are mainly seen. So on year by year, there is increasing of heat that is mainly seen. And this summer, it is a very hot because of no proper rainfall, right? So but the long-term effects of climate change have been exacerbated. So because of this climate change that led to exacerbated means increasing the impact of these heat waves. So heat waves, they became more extreme and more frequent and as well as prolonged heat waves. So because of impact of climate change. So if you're talking about some details, it mainly says that as India continues to grapple with the unrelenting waves, that is heat waves, so it is mainly becomes pertinent to unpack two strands of environmental philosophy. So because of these heat waves and impact of this climate change, so we need to understand two important philosophy. First one is shallow, next one is deep ecologism. So if you're talking about the shallow ecologism, it is nothing but it is a fight. It is a fight between what? It is fight between pollution and as well as resource depletion. So it is a fight between this resource depletion and pollution, that is called as shallow ecologism. So this exponents of this philosophy which mainly believes in continuing our present lifestyle but with special tweaks aimed at minimizing the damage to environment. Yes, we have to continue our present lifestyle, but here we also need to have an aim that we have to minimize the damage to our environment. So this is regarding this shallow ecologism. If we are talking about deep ecologism, which mainly believes that humans, they should radically change their relationship with nature. Okay, so it mainly proponents rejects like shallow ecologism for prioritizing the humans above the other forms of life. But subsequently, we need to preserve this environmentally destructive way of life of modern societies. So in the modern societies, how they are having relationship with the nature. So they need to change this radical relationship. So because we need to focus on sustainability and we need to focus on conservation of environment such that we can decrease the impact of climate change. So deep ecologism, which mainly says that sustaining this lifestyle, shallow ecologism, which mainly further widens inequalities between the countries. So whenever we are focusing on this shallow ecologism, that will leads to increasing of inequalities. Okay, and deep ecologism says that, so what is the relationship that we have with our nature? So we need to entirely change that relationship. So if we are talking about example, how this shallow ecologism, which is mainly widening the inequalities. For example, if you are talking about example of USA. Okay, USA which is having world's 5% of population, but this 5% of population, they are using about 17% of world's energy consumption. Okay, and USA is also the second largest consumer of electricity after China. So in this way here, whenever we are focusing on the shallow ecologism, so it is mainly leading to inequalities, rising of inequalities between the countries. So this is about this topic. And now let us try to say next topic is regarding gender-based violence. So NGO worried over rise in this gender-based violence. So this article is important from your GS paper to under society point of view, and even we can talk about this topic under governance point of view as well. Okay, so this topic it is important from your mains, and even this will be very much helpful to our Indian society point of view. And even you can also talk about this topic whenever you are talking about women empowerment, and even in your essay you can add this data. So this topic it is very important from the data point of view. So if you see context, it mainly says that it is worrying that over 98% of these gender based violence survivors, they do not have access to proper health care. Okay, they do not have proper access to health care. So because of this, there is a long term physical and as well as physiological consequences that is mainly seen. So this is according to this Medicine Sans Frontiers, okay, that is Doctors Without Borders report. So now let us try to see some important details of this NGO report, which mainly says that. So this recent data which mainly reflected that a dismal state in the practice of seeking medical care post gender violence, gender based violence, including sexual violence. So after once this sexual violence or domestic violence is happening, so women, they are having less access to health care. Okay, less access to health care. So because of this no proper health care, that will be having impact on physical and as well as psychological behavior of that woman. About 98% of gender based violence survivor, they recorded in this survey. So they do not have proper access to health care, and there is absence of comprehensive medical care availability for these vulnerable groups, and as well as why they are not having this access to this healthcare. So if you are going to any hospital, they have to give the details what happened. So whenever they are giving the details, so they need to go for mandatory police reporting. So because of this mandatory police reporting, so they are not approaching this healthcare facilities. And here, if you're talking about whenever any woman who went for sexual violence or sexual assault or any domestic violence, yes, medical care is compulsory. So medical care is very much essential, as sexual violence and intimate partner violence have well documented and long-term physiological or physiological and as well as psychological or physical consequences that we can see here. Whenever woman she is exposed to physical violence or sexual violence, she need immediate medical care to prevent pregnancy. Okay, and even to prevent HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. And mental health support is also very much helpful to reduce the psychological distress and to restore the dignity of the life. Okay, but they are not having proper access. Okay, and if you are talking about what are the reasons, the reason here is we are having a patriarchal mindset. So patriarchal mindset. So I want to say one example of this patriarchal society now is, after once marriage is done, women, they need to change the surname. So it is one example of this patriarchy that we can see now. Okay, so if you are talking about data regarding the gender based violence, so crimes against women which mean increased 7.3% from 2018 to 2019. So this is according to National Crimes Record Bureau report of 2019. And in this COVID-19 times, so there is highest rate, that is there is increasing of this gender based violence, domestic violence, sexual violence against women is very high. And majority of cases here crime against women under this IPC, Indian Penal Code, they were registered under cruelty by husband or cruelty by relatives. And if you're talking about Uttar Pradesh, which mainly reported highest number of crimes against women, okay, and mainly accounted for 14.7% of such cases across the country. And after UP, that is Rajasthan, okay, with 10.2% of cases, and later on Maharashtra. Okay, so these are some important data. And now let's try to understand what are the special laws which are present in India, mainly regarding the women. For example, we have Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005, which mainly talks about protection of women from domestic violence. And this one is we have Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, and we have Representation of Women's Prohibition Act, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, that is regarding this Vishaka guidelines. And next one is we have Prohibition of Child Marriages Act of 2006. So these are some important laws in India which are mainly protecting women. And if you're talking about what are the steps taken by the government of India, so we have Nirbhaya Fund. So this Nirbhaya Fund, which is mainly focusing on safety and as well as security of women. After this Delhi incident of 2012, Delhi rape incident, so we came up with this Nirbhaya Fund. And next one is government also came up with one-stop center scheme So in this scheme, which mainly provides support and as well as assistance for women, who are affected by the violence in both in the public and as well as the private place. And next one is government also came up with one analytical tool, that is investigation tracking system for sexual offences, and it is mainly monitoring and tracking time bound investigation as well. And next one is we have national database on sexual offenders. So this database which will be helpful for speedy investigation and as well as tracking of sexual offenders as well. And in order to coordinate various initiatives for women's safety, Ministry of Home Affairs has set up a women's safety division. So these are some important things that you have to remember regarding this topic. And now let us try to see next topic is regarding inflation. Inflation is the biggest challenge now. So now we need to know about this topic. Actually, this infographic which mainly says that kg tomato rupees is 130 rupees and kg carrot is 100 rupees, beetroot is 80 rupees. So there is very high price of vegetables that is seen in the market. So this topic is important from your GS paper 3, which mainly comes under your economy. Now let us try to see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that inflation is now the biggest challenge. So inflation, it is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing in our economy. So it is one of the biggest challenge for our Indian policy makers. Not only for Indian policymakers, but even if you are talking about US Federal Reserve, it is also facing one important challenge regarding this inflation. Inflation is very high in USA. So in yesterday's lecture we studied about what is the rate of inflation in USA. So in this context, so what are the details? So recently National Statistical Office, which is going to release this April month retail inflation soon. So already if you are talking about inflation in the month of March, it is like 6.95, it is almost 7%. So the target of maintaining this inflation here is upper limit is 6%, that is 4 plus or minus 2, that is 2 to 6%. It already crossed 6%, and there are a number of analysts, they are saying that in the month of April, so we are going to see high rate of inflation. And the biggest fear it is now is inflation, right? So here we need to go for monitoring of this inflation in the country. So recently RBI, which mainly took one step like increasing of interest rate, and yesterday's lecture we studied that inflation which is not because of this cost push inflation, but because of increasing of liquidity in the market. So now RBI which mainly take one decision like to decrease this money supply in the market, and it increases this interest rates, that is 40 basis points of repo rate and 50 points of CR, that is cash reserve ratio. So nearly we have inflation of 7% in the month of March, and actually there is increasing of prices because of increasing of sunflower oil price. So earlier it used to be like 148 rupees, that is a gold drop sunflower oil we will be using our home, and now it is around 210 rupees. And not only that, but because of this decreasing of edible oil, that is palm oil exports from Indonesia, it is also an impact here. And even we are seeing there is increasing of price of the vegetables. So these are some important reasons for this inflation. So here you need to know about what is this inflation, kinds of inflation, what are the causes, what are the impacts, that we already discussed in our yesterday's lecture. So please revise that once. And now let us try to see yesterday's questions. The first question is regarding DPSP. So in the Indian context, which is the following laws, programs which are formulated by successive government in order to implement DPSP? First one is Wildlife Protection Act, yes. Legal Service Authorities Act, yes. Next one is three-tier Panchayat Raj system, yes. And we have Criminal Procedure Code, yes. All these are correct. So correct option will be 4, all the above. And next one is fundamental rights are available only to the citizens of India but not to the foreigners. That is 15, 16, 19, 29 and 30. So these are the articles or fundamental rights which are available only for the citizens but not for the foreigners. So here the correct option will be the prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste or place of birth, yes. And next one is freedom to manage religious affairs, not. And next one is protection of language, script and culture, yes. And next one is protection against arrest, detention, no. Next one is elementary education, which comes under Article 21A. So that option is A1 and 1, that is A and C. And next today's questions are, the first one is right to property, and next one is it is regarding rule of equality before law. So please try to read the statements and give me the correct option in the comment box. And actually we are launching this pen drive course for foundation course of 2023 and 2024. So the validity of this course is 2 years, and we are providing more than 600 hours of lectures with the detailed explanation of topics, and we are discussing the recent current affairs, and these are updated videos. So try to take this course, and the cost here is 60,000 rupees and validity is 2 years, and it also includes prelims test series and as well as mains answer writing course of 1 year. And if you want to take single modules like only history, only geography, only ethics and only economy like that, so you can take the single courses as well. So your details are mainly present in our website Rathod's IAS Academy, and if you have any query regarding these courses, please call me on this number 8074765513. Okay, and now let us try to see today's Hindu newspaper PDF. So this is our today's Hindu, date is May 12th, and this is Delhi edition. So first article regarding the Supreme Court puts colonial sedition law on hold. I discussed this topic. There are some case studies regarding the JNU student, and even Kankia Kumar and Disha Ravi. Disha Ravi, she is an environmentalist, and next one is Kashmiri students. Okay, so you can see these examples and you can quote these examples in your answers. And this article, it is about cyclone Asani. Okay, so here you can see one image is there. So one chariot that had been washed ashore in Srikakulam on Wednesday. So this is the chariot which is mainly coming from the state from the country like Myanmar, but actually there is no clarity regarding where it has been used. So there are some researches that are mainly going on regarding this chariot. And next article is regarding marital rape. I discussed this topic. And please leave the city page and as well as states page. There is nothing much important in today's newspaper. And there is one article, this is one interesting article I found, that is rising internet addiction in children worries experts. So this article which is mainly talking about internet de-addiction clinic. So actually there were many children, they were coming to this internet de-addiction clinic here. So actually the children, they are mainly between 5 years to 18 years of age. Actually there are some children, they are much addicted and they are sleeping late at night, and they want to play the games in this mobile by using this internet, and because of that they are mainly having some important and as well as abnormalities. I can't say it is exactly like abnormalities, but they are having some symptoms like unusual hand movements are happening, and they are not getting sleep, so like that. Okay, so here there are many children, they are mainly addicted to this mobile phones and internet due to this COVID-19 pandemic. So here we need to talk about that, because it is one of the important challenges that is mainly faced by the parents. And if you move forward, there is nothing much important in this state speech. And this editorial page, I discussed regarding this sedition law. I discussed regarding this Medical Pregnancy Act. So these two articles which are regarding the COVID-19 related deaths, that is not much important. And here in this op-ed page, so please refer this article. So this is from Bharat to India. And if you move forward in this text and context, you can also see this industrialization in Tamil Nadu's development. Already video, it is very lengthy, and I already crossed my time limit. So there is nothing much important, but you can easily understand this regarding what are the steps which are mainly taken by this Tamil Nadu government. So how it mainly focused on industrialization, how it mainly focused on social, economic and as well as economic outcomes. So how it mainly focused on education and public health, which is mainly given here. So you can read this article, especially if you are from Tamil Nadu state, you have to know about this steps which are taken by Tamil Nadu government. It might be a question in your interview. And I discussed regarding this shallow and as well as deep ecologism. And in this newspaper, it is nothing much important here. And here there is one article regarding the CBI arrest 6 officials, 8 others in this FCRA bribery case. You have to know what is bribery case. So this is important regarding your ethics as well. In ethics, whenever you are coming with this foundational values, so where the corruption and as well as where the bribery will be happening. So whenever there is high skills and low values are there, so these are some important things where we can connect with this FCRA bribery case. And next one is NGO worried over rise in gender-based violence. I discussed this topic. And next topic, it is regarding this build social protection system. It is a thing which mainly said by this Kailash Satyarthi. So this Kailash Satyarthi, he is a Nobel laureate. He mainly focused on the girl child education actually, and he also focused on elimination of child labor as well. And next one is economy on blink of total collapse. So this article, which is mainly talking about Sri Lanka's economy, already we discussed that topic. And next one is we will appoint PM cabinet in a week, says Godbaya. So actually you know that Prime Minister, he mainly resigned, right? And next topic, it is regarding inflation. I discussed this topic. And next one is rupee fall. It is regarding depreciation. I also discussed this topic. So these are some important articles that appear in this today's newspaper. So by this I'm concluding. Thank you so much, and please subscribe to Rathod's IAS and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you.